Hi, in this video we are going to create a spring animation. A spring animation is one of the classes that Android provides for creating physics-based animation. The other class that can be used to create physics-based animation from this API is fling animation. Maybe I will do another video, a separate video on that fling animation, but for now we are going to work with spring animation. So I open Firefox and I'm going to head over to Android's developer website to check out the documentation for this class, spring animation. On this page we see that physics-based motion is driven by force. Spring force is one such force that guides interactivity and motion. A spring force has the following properties: damping and stiffness. In a spring-based animation, the value and the velocity are calculated based on spring force that is applied on each frame. So basically we have an animation that emulates the motion of a spring that we have seen in the real world. We have an oscillation that starts with some force and then it damps with a damping ratio until it comes to a rest or a resting position after a while. We can see an example here, an example of a physics-based animation, a spring animation that has been applied to a view. So there are several steps in creating a spring animation that you can see here on this page. Some of them are required, but most of them are optional. So for example, the first step in creating a spring animation is to add the support library. The next step is to create the spring animation, and the final step which is required is to start the animation. There are other optional steps which are listed also on this page. One of them is registering listeners, the other is removing listeners after they are needed, and setting a starting value, a value range between that, in a range that will move, and the changes of the animation will occur in that range. We could also create a custom spring. In that case, we create a custom spring, for example, a spring with certain properties and characteristics that we have defined, and we are going to use that in all over our application, in different parts of our application. And there's also a step which might be needed in case we want to cancel our animation. We can cancel the animation by calling the methods, the relevant methods that have been defined for this purpose in the API. But with regard to the first step, adding the support library, we have this dependency. We should add this dependency to our application. So let's get started and create an application in order to implement our simple spring animation and see what it looks like. I open Android Studio have to wait until Android Studio starts up. As you can see, Android Studio logo has changed after a while. Now we see a brand new logo for the splash screen of this software when it launches for the first time. By that I don't mean the first time that you use the software in all your workflow. In fact, every time you launch it, you will see this launch screen. Alright, let's create a new application. Start a new Android Studio project. From the templates, project templates, I select empty activity and press next. And then I name it Spring Animation. Alright. The language we will be using for this application is Java. Of course, Kotlin is perfectly fine, but we are going to stick to Java for now. And the minimum SDK, note that the physics-based animation requires API 25 and higher, so we will have to use API 25 or Android Nougat. Because it was introduced, this physics-based animation has been introduced to Android in Android Nougat. For the purpose of education and teaching you how this works, I'm going to use this API, but in real-world applications you should normally select a lower API level, and then inside your application, when you want to use such an animation, you should check the API level of the device first, and then if it is supported, if it is above API 25, then you will be able to apply that animation. Otherwise, your animation will simply not work, so you should consider that. Alright, let's select finish. I think I just made a small mistake. I should have saved the project in another location, but that's not a big deal. We have to wait until the project is created. We also get a notification for updates. Let's see what are the updates that we should consider applying. Android emulator, Android Google Play Instant Development SDK revision 1.9, and Android SDK Platform Tools revision 29 0.0.4. Not now, remind me later. We are going to focus on our application for now. As the project is being built, I'm thinking of the scenario that I'm going to implement in this project, of the animation that I'm going to implement. Of course, you can animate every view with this class Spring Animation, but let's think about a good scenario that creates a meaningful motion, or at least a fun motion. Let's say we could have several views inside a container, inside a parent view, and then inside it we have several views which will be animated. We can select them randomly and then apply Spring Animation to them. Meanwhile, considering the different properties, initial values that should be set on those animations before starting the animation. As you can see, it takes way too long for the project to be built. Of course, this is the first time and the project is being configured, and this is normal. By the way, I'm using version 3.6 of this IDE, which is currently available for download from the Canary channel. Here, 3.6 Canary 12. Soon this version will become beta, and then after that we'll move to RC, release candidate, and then eventually, I think after around several months, 2 or 3 months, or around early 2012 to 2020 or 2020, you will be able to download the stable version of this library, of this IDE, this version 3.6, if it is available. Alright, our project is ready, it's built, and we can now embark on creating the views that we want to animate. I open activity main, the activity main layout. Here I'm going to replace this text view with, let's say, an image view. Yes. But I have an idea. Before that, we can replace this image view with a linear layout. Alright. Let me think a little bit about this. Which one will work better? A linear layout or other layout? I think this is fine. A linear layout is fine. I delete the ending part of the tag and I close it this way. What? I cannot type. What's going on? This is probably a result of using beta software instead of stable software. So essentially I'm a software tester right now, and such bugs are probably normal. I cannot just close this tag. Let's delete this altogether and create another linear layout. What's the matter? I cannot enter the ending tag. Something is wrong. This key is working, but when I press it with shift, it doesn't work. Let's go to the layout section, visualization. Still it's building. That's really a pain. It's taking too long for the project to build a simple project. This is the bare minimum of a project. I haven't still added anything to the project. It has been taking around over 10 minutes, I guess. Let's see how long. Yes. Maybe over 10 minutes. We have been waiting for the project to be built. This is a pain. Bear with me, guys. A little bit more and this will be done. Waiting for build to finish. What is this? You know, it seems this part also has changed in this version. We didn't have such visualization here. I think this is a completely new thing. We didn't have something called visualization. I don't remember anything like that. We just had this part where we could actually see a preview of the thing that we were designing in the layout section. Alright, let's see if we can add our linear layout now that the build has finished. Linear layout. Yes, now it is working. Let's give it width and height. Layout width. For the layout, let's specify match parent for the width. And match parent for the height. All right. Oh my god. What is happening? Okay. Linear layout. Inside the linear layout, we can add another views where I'm going to add an image view. I'm going to give it a width and height. Layout. This is painfully slow, probably because I'm running a recording software right now. But also it is probable that this version is still slow, this version, considering that it is all still beta, and even before beta it's from the Kenner channel. Okay, for the width I type 150 dp. Probably I will change this also to a smaller value later on. I'm going to have a very small view. Layout, height 150 dp, or dip as pros say. We need a source, Android src. Let's specify drawable, and let's say this is a ball. Yes, a soccer ball. Let's download the soccer ball. I guess I already have downloaded one such image. I could find it inside my files. Oh, I have a mistake here. Drawable, drawable. Yes, now it's better. Let's find that image I was talking about inside pictures. All right, where is that? Don't find it. It's here. I'm stupid. It's right here and I'm looking around. Alright, I copy that from here and then I paste it inside the drawable directory, Android Studio. Here I name it ball. Now our drawable will be found. Okay, that's here. Now I'm going to center it at least horizontally so that it stands here inside our linear layout. Also, I'm going to shrink my linear layout a bit. I'm going to center my linear layout and also give it a background so that it stands out. Let's make it as beautiful as we can, as we probably can. Okay, as you can see, it's beautiful. Let's see if we could give it a gravity here. Layout gravity, yes. Center horizontal. No, we couldn't. This should be moved here inside its parent, which is the linear layout. Now it should work. Center horizontal. Yeah, come on. What? Layout. I think this will work. Gravity. This time it should work. Yeah. Okay, let's shrink our linear layout a little bit. For the height, let's give it a height of, let's say, 600 dp. How's that? No. For the width, let me check the width and height of this emulator that I'm using. 1080, 1920, 1920. I'm not sure. what's the width and height and depth for this layout. Let's change this a bit. 600 dp, 600 depth for height. If we give it a background, it will make our life easier. Background, let's give it a color. Let's open up our color picker. Come on. The ID is too slow. Probably my RAM is full, and that's the cause of the problem. Okay, for the background, let's give a light background. This is nice. This is somehow similar to grass and soccer, so it's fine, I guess. Also, let's decrease the size of our ball. It's too big. As I had guessed, 150 was too big. 100 dp, 100 depth. Okay. Let's also decrease the height, decrease the width to, let's say, 300 depth. Still too big. No, it's fine, I guess. 300 is fine. We should center it. The way we could center it is by using constraints. As we are using a constraint layout as its parent, we can constrain it visually. This parent from the bottom to bottom. Come on. From the right to the right. Come on. Left to left. Try again. Top to top. Now it's centered. As you can see, we have these constraints added automatically by the ID as we chose to attach them visually here. Ouch. Ouch. Ah. My elbow was almost broken. Okay. Now I add a small button here to initiate our animation. A very small button, let's add it. Layout width, wrap content. Let's make these wrap content, height and width. Layout, height, wrap content. Let's add a text. Text. Run. Let's give it constraints from the right. Come on. Left. It's just going to make me crazy. And from the top, I hope I can add a top one. Yes, it worked. Let's give it a small margin. I think it's better to have a margin here. Android layout margin. Like, let's say 8 depth. Too big. Probably too big. No, not bad. That's fine. All right. I also prefer to change this text from run to kick. Nice. Let's also try to make these corners round here, a little bit round, like that we know in CSS styling. I'm not sure if I will be able to manage to do that here, but I'll do my best. Sorry guys, I have a little bit headache. I don't usually suffer from headaches, but it just... Okay, this linear layout is apparent is the playground for our soccer ball, and I'm going to try to give it corners. Let's see if we get any suggestions. Android colon corner. No, nothing. Layout corner. Nothing. We don't get any. At least let's give it an elevation. Android elevation. And for the elevation, let's give it 16 depth. Should look better. But I like to have round corners. It seems it's not possible as is with this view. Okay, let's forget about peripherals. Let's start on animation. So before doing that, let's add a method for this button here. Unclick, Android colon unclick. I'm going to add a simple method here. Start animation. Start spring animation. This is basically a method that will be found inside our activity main layout, the activity that is associated with this layout. So I hit the warning because Android Studio cannot find it already. We respond to the warning by selecting create start spring animation in main activity, and the method is automatically added to this class. Inside this method, I'm going to add my animation. So inside this method, we will access our soccer ball. To access it, we need an ID. So I set an ID to this image view. Android colon ID equals @ plus ID slash ball. Okay. Back to our code. I find the image view, find view by ID, or .id.ball. Now we have the image. We need to create our spring animation. Spring, I call it spring, new spring animation. These two variables need importing their classes, so I press Alt and return to import image view and the spring animation. No, I just made a mistake. No, don't create this class, import it. Come on. What's wrong with you? Oh my god. Guys, remember that I told you we need to add a class. We need to add a library in order to be able to access the classes in this API, this physics-based animation API. I forgot to do that just here. I copy this. I go to build.gradle, Ctrl-Shift-N. I search for build.gradle. I find it inside the app module. And here I added this block, the dependencies block. I changed the version section with a hard-coded version number 1.0.0, which is the current version. And make sure to press sync now for the library to be applied. Okay, the project was configured, the library was added. Now we will be able to import it. Import the class. So the first property, the first argument to the constructor of this class is the view we are going to animate. And here that view is our image. And the second property, the second argument, is the property that is going to be animated, and that here can be anything of the values of the properties that this API allows us to animate. Let's say it is translation, rotation, or X and Y positions, X and Y coordinates of the view on the screen. So what I'm going to do is to animate the Y position, because I'm going to move the soccer ball vertically across the screen. So what I do is type dynamic animation and then the property name, which is Y. We also need to import dynamic animation class. Let's now type, I think we should now be able to start the animation. Spring.start. Note that we have not specified any extra property right now. We have not specified any parameters for our spring. It's all the default settings already defined in the library for the class. For example, we did not specify the amping ratio, we did not specify a stiffness or anything beyond that. I just run the project to see the result. I hope that it doesn't fail me, because the RAM already seems full. Of course, I have quite large amount of free here, but my swap is full. Again, we have to wait until the project is being built and the emulator starts up. When the project is being built, let me tell you something. First of all, I thank you for watching my videos, my tutorials. I hope you find it useful and you learn something useful from these videos. If you find them useful, please consider buying one of my courses on Udemy, where most of these topics are fully covered and in a better quality of videos with additional resources with source code and other stuff like exercises and quizzes. I think that they are better, they are of better quality, and so if you find these videos useful, please consider buying one of my courses on Udemy. One of these courses I have there is the complete Android animations course, which you can buy right now, and I'm already adding some additional stuff. It's almost complete, but I'm adding some other stuff to make it even better. And so once again, thank you. Okay, the project is built and the emulator is up and running. Let's check out the project on the emulator. Oh my god, it seems that the emulator crashed. It's not up and running. Of the emulator, because as I said, this is new and it probably has to do with OpenGL or something like that. Again, it takes too long, way too long to build. I think it's almost done. As this is doing its job of starting up the emulator, let's check out some of the parameters that we can further set up for our animation object. For example, the damping stuff, damping ratio and stiffness. Let's check them out. Yes, damping ratio. The damping ratio describes a gradual reduction in spring oscillation. Overdamping occurs when the damping ratio is greater than 1. It lets the object quickly return to its rest position. Critical damping ratio occurs when the damping ratio is equal to 1. It lets the object return to the rest position within the shortest amount of time. Call the getSpring method to retrieve the spring to add the damping ratio. Call the setDampingRatio method and pass the damping ratio that you want to add to the spring. The method returns the spring force object on which the damping ratio is set. Pixel is starting. The following damping ratio constants are available in the system, so we can basically pass in these values instead of defining just numbers, passing in floats and doubles. We can pass in these constants to this method. The other thing is stiffness. We can call getSpring, so this returns the spring instance where we can manipulate its properties. Call this at stiffness and then pass in these values: stiffness low, stiffness medium, high bounce, high bouncy. These are the effects of using these constants for damping ratio. So the lower the value, the higher the bounce, as you can see here. Okay, hopefully our application is running, not still. It just ran. I guess now it's running. It's going to run right now. System. My computer is not very old and it does have decent configuration, but you know, Android development requires very high-end equipment, disk, SSD disk, large amount of RAM. Although I have 8 gigabytes of RAM, besides 8 gigabytes swap, it still doesn't work very well. Okay, the app is running. I don't find that button that I defined. Okay, that button is not here because we have an action bar. Let's remove that action bar. I go to styles.xml. Come on. It's just frozen. This is really bad. Let's exit Firefox. Okay, it seems it's working. Styles.xml. XML. Let's change the parent to no action bar. Come on. This is really bad. No action bar, come on. I'm gonna exit this page to free some memory for our use. Apply the changes. They don't have any extra software running to free up memory, so we have to bear with this speed. Probably I could do some changes in the OBS software settings so that it uses less CPU when running. I guess now my CPU is pretty full. Alright, apply the changes. Sorry, I will be back. I will be right back. Okay, the changes were applied. Let's see the result. The button positioning is not that wonderful, but we can at least press it. Come on, we had a crash. Let's check out the logcat to see what was the problem. Error. So as you saw, my system is pretty unresponsive, but basically that's the way we define spring animations, and it should just start working. So because my system is unresponsive, I cannot proceed any further right now, and I'm really sorry about that. I apologize for that. I hope that you find this video useful. You can further modify this application from now on. You can set other properties, set a stamping ratio, and set other properties for the animation like stiffness, and then run the application again. If you find this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. Also, let me know what you think of the video by placing your comments, by leaving your comments below the video. Thanks again. Goodbye. Alright, in the previous section, in the previous video, we had some freezing problems. So I couldn't show you how this animation runs. After creating the animation, the spring animation, how it runs. So I also made some changes to the code in order for the animation to run. Note that I defined a force, a spring force object here, and then initialized it. I set its damping ratio, and then its stiffness, and then another important attribute, which is very important, is the final position. I set the final position to 500 pixels. So it means that when the spring reaches 500 pixels of the initial position, then it will just come to a resting position there. So after that, after we defined and set the properties of our spring force, we finally used that force as an argument to this method, set spring, which is passed and which is called on this object, spring object, which we initially defined for our image. And finally, we call spring.start, which starts the animation. Now let's see the app in action when it runs. What you see here is the resting position of our spring. In fact, I have run this application once before. So the ball was here, the soccer ball, and then it started bouncing and came to this resting position, which is 500 pixels off this point. Now I'm going to run the app again, and you will see the animation. I press this button and this starts animating. Our image starts animating. Nice, isn't it? Okay, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.